So it looks like Donald Trump is going to announce the Fed chair pick this morning, and I'll show you guys the latest. As the headline, stock market today, Dow futures drop. Trump expected to name Warsh as the Fed chair. Okay, we've got a name. You can check over the betting markets. It's got him at 94%. It just dropped. It was 95% just a second ago. So I guess there's a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit. Rick Ryder at 2% and Judy Shelton at 3%. The Rick Ryder pick, that was actually BlackRock guy, and that was pushed by people at Davos, but evidently that sort of pushing a Ryder ended really quick. And now we're going with Warsh. So again, it's at 94%. Trump said he's going to announce this morning and will be confirmed on that. His announcement will be confirmed soon. Donald Trump preparing to nominate Kevin Warsh as Federal Reserve Chair. That's coming from Financial Times. You also got Bloomberg reporting the same thing. So again, they're all reporting it's going to be him. Trump administration prepares to back Warsh for Fed chair. All right, so let's see what the description is. It says, stocks fell and Treasury yields pushed higher on bets Warsh will be nominated, okay, while the dollar rose. The trades reflected speculation Warsh may be less enthusiastic to cut rates than other candidates, giving his past warnings on inflation risks and more recent calls for the Fed to reduce its balance sheet. He has more recently echoed Trump's criticism of the Fed for being too slow to ease. And I mean, you never know. So at least the rumor mill then is saying is more of a conventional pick, not so crazy, but they are giving you mixed signals here. Are you going to cut? Are you going to print money? So the first part of this is like maybe not cut, maybe not print money. But then he has more recently echoed Trump's criticism of the Fed being too slow to ease. So there's that. And we'll see. I mean, all bets are off in this current climate as Trump can tweet out at any moment, start threatening people. One of these senators was threatening, though, to block any Trump pick until he drops the probe against Jerome Powell. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Well, I'll be announcing that tomorrow morning.
What exactly tipped that person over the edge?
I'd rather say it tomorrow, but just an outstanding person and a person that won't be too surprising to people. A lot of people think that this is somebody that could have been there a few years ago. It's going to be somebody that is very respected, somebody that's known to everybody in the financial world, and I think it's going to be a very good choice. I hope so.
So
I mean,
someone who was on your short list, sir?
On my reasonably short list, yeah.
Mr. President.
All right. Well, someone on Trump's reasonably short list. So basically, they told him who to pick. He originally, I think Trump, in his heart of hearts, probably would have wanted more like a best center Hassett, someone who's like literally just a lackey, and somebody can say, hey, just put interest rates at zero, something like that. But so, we'll see how Warsh turns out. But like I said, it ends up, looks like people are saying a more conventional pick. And we got breaking news. It looks like Trump has just confirmed it's going to be Kevin Warsh. Says, I am pleased to announce that I'm nominating Kevin Warsh to be chairman of the board of governors of the Federal Reserve System. And then Trump goes on to say, I have known Kevin for a long period of time and have no doubt that he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe the best. On top of everything else, he is, quote, central casting, and he will never let you down. So this language is always Trump and his TV show. He's going to have to deal with this, as we all are. Big U.S. companies set to lay off at least 52,000 workers as job market cools. So this is a major story. I've told you guys before. This year, it's not going to be the talk on inflation. It's really going to be jobs. First, though, this is a list of some of the companies, big ones. So you got UPS laying off, Amazon laying off, Dow, Home Depot, and Nike. One quote here, companies are increasingly discussing layoffs and appear eager to use artificial intelligence to reduce labor costs, right? So basically, fire as many people as you can, give you an AI as your assistant, hoping that you're going to be more efficient and dump more work on you, or just use AI to theoretically outright replace you, depending on what your job is. It says more, but the labor market has stagnated in the past year as uncertainty over trade and AI leaves employers reluctant to hire or fire employees. So this is a layoff chart. I showed you guys this in the last video, but basically more people are getting laid off. That's just essentially what this shows you here. Unemployment, what is it? We're around 4.4 to 4.5%. But there's a lot of people who are underemployed. You're just not getting paid enough. And there's a lot of people who are piecing together gig work, which is unreliable. So there's a lot of people just really struggling out there. Some people say just look whatever the government tells you and just double that, and that's the real unemployment. Hiring is slowing down, and many people have been reporting that in various industries. I think the only ones that are really hiring is maybe like healthcare. That's traditionally just there's been a shortage of many of those types of jobs. So if you're looking for work, healthcare or building data centers, if you want to be in a trade jobs that way. But how long will the data center boom last is anyone's guess. I still think it's a massive bubble, as there's a bunch of spend in that. You saw it happen with various companies, and then the revenue isn't there. They're not generating what to justify all this spend. Someone wrote in the comments, and just want to make this clear, someone wrote in the comments that they said, but Chris, ChatGPT is an amazing, app. I love it, etc. How could they possibly go bust? So that's the thing. You may like the app, you may like whatever chatbot that you're using, but the question I would pose to you is, are you actually paying for it, right? Are you willing to subscribe for it? Are you willing to pay $20 or $100 a month for said thing? And then maybe you are, just perhaps, but is everyone around you willing to pay for said things?
I want to show the people what it takes to go from private citizen to being a first lady again. They will see me, all of the tasks that I need to do, from preparing to inauguration, running my business, family, and philanthropy, establishing East Wing. So it's a lot of going on.
It's kind of weird that she's talking about East Wing that's now been destroyed. And then, also with Melania, the movie itself, if you want to find a trailer on it, you can. They just follow around, and if he doesn't do anything that interesting other than schedule, restaurant appointments or buy clothes, is that something that people want to see? And there's millions of dollars to go into this thing, well more than any normal documentary, if you want to call it that. And there's a lot of marketing behind it, also dollars. And then they picked a director who has, we'll call it this way, a history of sexual harassment. And it's Brad, I think it's Ratner's his name. You can look it up. It's high profile. Stars come out and said the guy's no good. And it's the kind of stuff that to say there's a reason why people don't want to work with him and stuff like that. It's not good. It's the same kind of people that Trump hangs out with. There's that. If you look at the premiere, it wasn't really that well attended. It looked like mostly political people. There is a tape floating around that, saying that look at all the Fox News people that didn't show up. So that might be true, but it's there. And I'm looking at the Kennedy Center website here, but it looks like mostly political people, like cabinet members and stuff, were there, and you can see. And then there's Ratner there, and it's again, it's someone you don't really want to associate with whatsoever. And it looks like just mostly cabinet members showed up, basically. So there's that. Donald Trump is also attacking the UK for getting closer to China, which is something that Trump likes to do. And then he was attacking Canada in this weird attack.
What do you think about the UK getting into business with China? Keir Starmer was in Beijing.
Well, it's very dangerous for them to do that, and it's even more dangerous, I think, for Canada to get into business with China. Canada is not doing well. They're doing very poorly. And you can't look at China as the answer. I know China very well. I know President Xi's a friend of mine. I know him very well. But that's a big hurdle to go over when you get Canada. The first thing they're going to do is say you're not allowed to play ice hockey anymore. That's not good. Canada's not going to like it.
I guess according to Trump, if you do business with China, this is directed at Canada, you won't be able to play hockey anymore. That's according to Trump. That's how whacked out the dude is. And then he's also threatening Canada planes today, based on the fact that Canada has wrongfully, illegally, and steadfastly refused to certify Gulfstream 500, 600, and 700 and 800 jets, one of the greatest, most technologically advanced airplanes ever made. We are hereby decertifying their Bombardier Global Expresses and all aircraft made in Canada until such time as Gulfstream, a Great American Company, is fully certified. So I guess we don't want Canadian planes. Further, Canada has effectively prohibited the sale of Gulfstream products in Canada through these very same certification process, so meaning that because you guys care about safety, we hate you, I guess. If for any reason the situation is not immediately corrected, I'm going to charge Canada a 50% tariff on any and all aircraft sold in the United States. Thank you for attention to this matter. So that's what's going on. And then you actually have a pretty big story here. the U.S. is flirting with its first ever population decline. This is actually a major story. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about other things, maybe the Melania stuff or whatever, but this is probably equally as important a story as the Fed pick, I would say. Basic gist of it is, if you just think about the economy in the past, if there's always a population growth, then you always need people to have houses to live. You always have people to sell, cars and phones and things like that. But if there's less people coming, then less shoppers effectively, right? The consumers wouldn't be there because there's less people. And if we're going into decline, that creates a lot of, real serious concerns. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that like you can have infinite population growth forever. There's going to be a finite, amount of resources available for people. It's just like, you can't pack everyone into, say, for example, Manhattan and expect things to be, jolly. It just, and Manhattan's an interesting example because, when you get, everyone wants to go, say, the same place, then, mortgage and, or I should say just home prices skyrocket, rent skyrocket, et cetera. There's just so many people for that one little spot. But I think the overall, thing is like, it's hard to have consistent growth on every product category when you have population decline. And it's largely due to Trump's immigration policy and also changes to, people just don't have as many kids. So you have the baby boomers. And for those people who are in that category, you may have maybe 4, maybe 5 brothers and sisters, that kind of stuff. And then where their kids or grandkids have the same amount of kids. And no, you guys already know this inherently. So this is actually important to talk about, though. And this is from Bloomberg. If there's one single consistent advantage in the United States has carried since its founding, its ability to draw talent and expand its population, right? So the U.S. considers to be growing and something I've talked about several times where, you want to attract the best talents out of the world, be it at our, universities, at our companies, right? These kind of things, and be a magnet for that. But now as the country prepares to celebrate its 250th birthday and ponders its appetite for President Trump's crackdown on immigration, the U.S. risks recording a historic and economic milestone decades ahead of its schedule. Based on at least one respected estimate, 2026 may see the first real population decline in U.S. history. And again, this is a really a major story. So it has so many, impacts on the economy and otherwise. But the USA is not alone. China's facing the similar thing. Japan, this is the population peaked in 2010. So what was that, 16 years ago? And I think Europe's probably in a similar situation. It's just, this is how the numbers shake out. The U.S. has grown throughout history. You can see the chart right there. So, I originally heard numbers that the U.S. would decline by like 2070 kind of thing. Not necessarily like this year. Now, no one knows for sure, when it's going to be, because I was reading through this stuff and they were saying, just for example, population math is simple, even if collecting the definitive data is not. You take births, subtract deaths, factor in arriving and departing migrants, and you get the country's population growth. Like you can just figure out how many people are there. There's more. It says recent work by researchers at the center-right American Enterprise Institute and the center-left Brookings Institute suggests the U.S. has already experienced a net negative migration. Certainly, people can leave the country. If you guys know, I'm American. We lived in the USA, but we decided to come to Korea. My wife is Korean. We take care of my wife's parents and these kind of things. So I'm sure you guys understand this stuff. And even at the moment, even if we wanted to go back to the USA, it's not safe. And it's also just a hassle. So, as you guys know, it's nothing shocking here. But the numbers as it shakes out, though, we're not sure if it's going to be declined for sure. So, for example, it says, it's this year, though, where the AEI, so that's the American Enterprise Institute, and Brookings teams estimate gets more interesting. They predict the U.S. will have a net immigration somewhere between a gain of 185,000, so that would be the high end, and a decline of 925,000 in 2026. So this is this year's projections. We could have a decline, right, according to this. And even if there is a gain, it'll be very, very small. And then it relates to multiple businesses. Actually have a similar situation here in Korea, where schools don't have enough children effectively, right? That would be elementary, high school, and even universities. For example, it says here, the signs of demographic change are also already in plain sight. There are fewer 18-year-olds in the U.S. than there once were, a reality that's affecting enrollment in colleges and universities and will define the future of the U.S. labor force, right? U.S. industries from construction to manufacturing were complaining about the lack of qualified workers. The AE Brookings study released in January found that the effect of lower net migration would strip as much as 0.3 percentage points off the growth in both 2025 and 2026. So I think all of these things we talked about today, be it the Fed chair pick, Trump's crazy, basically corruption with the Melania film or other things, and then destroying partnerships around the world, be it UK or Canada, saying, hey, Canada, you can't play hockey, or I guess do playing business with us. And then you have the population decline, which just has an overall impact on everything. So that's what's going on. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this stuff. And I'll catch you all in the next video.